Welcome to the Sonrise Pastors Podcast. Today, I'm joined by my good friend, Pastor Paul Martini, and I think that you're going to really enjoy this episode. He is the pastor of New Life City Church in Albuquerque, New Mexico. They've been running these groups called table groups, which are a place where evangelism meets discipleship, meets spiritual growth and leadership development, kind of all of just being a part of the mission of God, and using these groups to open their doors and their hearts to people that need Jesus, and then seeing them come to faith and become integrated into the church. And God's multiplying new believers and new groups in Albuquerque. And Paul's been a friend for a while now, and he's encouraging us on our journey of starting table groups. So this is for everybody at our church that started table groups, that's interested to know more what they're about and learn from somebody that's a little further down the road. Grace and I have had this vision for these groups, and they've just begun in our church. And we've got another leader training coming up soon. So we really want you to come be a part and get look under the hood with us and find out the nuts and the bolts, and help us join us in this mission of winning Everett and the surrounding region to know Jesus in the Pacific Northwest. I'm excited about this season of ministry and what God is doing through all those that have said yes and those that are God's going to continue to add to us to join us in this great mission of winning souls and making disciples of Jesus by just loving people well, being faithful. It's nothing flashy, but just studying the scripture and community and making a space for people. So anyway, I'm done introducing the episode. If you like it, please share this with other people in our church. And please send us any questions that you have. We'd love to inform you more to help you be connected to this. So please enjoy this episode and subscribe to our platforms if you haven't done so already. God bless you. Well, welcome everybody to the Sonrise of Pastors Podcast. I am really excited. It's probably the most overused word by pastors everywhere. And I just got to figure out better words to say. But here I am, just sliding right in the excited language again. Um, Excited to be with my friend Paul Martini, who pastors a great church, New Life Church. Did I say that right?
New Life City, but it
New
is,
Life City. Thank you.
yeah,
There is city,
yeah.
New Life City. Yeah, there's a lot of new lives in my, different, which is a great thing to have in your life, in my circles of friends. New Life City, that's right. In Albuquerque, New Mexico. Been lead pastor there for how many years now?
It'll be 5 years in May, end of May,
Okay.
beginning of June. Actually, June 6th, it'll be 5 years. I moved here in
Okay.
May. Yeah,
Yeah, amazing. 5 years
5 years.
going strong. And Paul and I connected through Dr. Randy Clark. And Randy was doing a ministry conference at our church, and started hearing the heart and vision that my wife Grace and I had for our church, Sonrise. And he was like, "Oh man, you would be friends with one of my spiritual sons." He was like on my board, and he used to do ministry and travel with me. His name's Paul Martini. And I was like, I've heard of Paul. I probably had seen some of your like, I think the main thing I had seen was your Spokane revival. I think it was like 2 years after knowing you or so that I like it kind of connected in my head one day that you were the one leading that. And I was like, I watched that whole story unfold, and I was like cheering for you and had godly jealousy. Like, God, do it on the West Side. We need,
Yeah.
this kind of movement on the West Side. But anyway, and he was right. We became friends after he introduced us, and you came out and helped us with one of our conferences, the Way Conference, and we're kind of pursuing one of the same things that you've been after a little bit longer than us in your church, table groups, and this multiplication strategy for winning souls and making disciples and raising up leaders to multiply the church, right? So we are like in the thick of it now, and we just did this big kind of public unveiling on Sunday. It'll probably be a couple weeks by the time this goes on YouTube and podcast platforms, but we've trained about 70 leaders to start close to 15 groups. A couple of them are still about to launch, and some of them are relaunches from our old small groups. And so I just thought this is a really great time to get another conversation with my brother Paul. Martini and Hammer. I feel like that sounds like a show or something.
I
Hammer and
know. We got to do
Martini,
our own. We
Martini
got
and
to do a show.
Hammer.
Definitely need to do a show. Yeah, man.
Yeah,
I feel like you're a brother from another mother. I mean,
that's
I'm
right.
ecstatic
Yeah.
to
Oh,
talk
there
to
you go.
you.
That's better. That's an upgrade.
Yeah. And we're running together because we
Mhm,
really are similar in mission and
mhm.
similar background in being spirit filled and having a Pentecostal spirit filled background, charismatic
Yeah.
background. Obviously, being close with Randy. And so when we connected about table groups, we've really felt like I thought it was amazing how well you guys adapted and took that on. And very even your launching, like we launched with around 70 people with
Mhm.
15 groups. You know, it's like
Yeah,
that's
wow.
really funny how we're very similar. So I'm excited about what God's doing in Washington as well as New Mexico. So
Yeah. Oh, it's amazing. I mean, when I first heard you guys talk about the concept of groups, and I know you've been studying the church that you kind of connected me with in Brazil, in Belo Horizonte Central Church, and their model of groups was very congruent with kind of the vision that we had as a church. And Grace and I have been lead pastors 7 years, and we kind of had this in our heart before we were transitioning. We tried some different models, and we've had some great group leaders and some various levels of, quote unquote, small group success. But it wasn't really like kind of the culture of involving mission and intentional reproducing of new believers and raising up new leaders. And so, Grace and I have enjoyed doing small groups and everything, but like our vision was Acts 2:42 to 47. And this idea that as you gathered in the temple and you had these times of like teaching and worship and prayer, and it says, that signs and wonders were done at the hands of the apostles. So it looks like the power of God is flowing in revival type meetings, but then that they're breaking bread house to house. And then it says at the end there that the Lord is adding to them daily those who are being saved. I thought, well, even in the best churches that are experiencing a lot of growth from like great Sunday services, you're not necessarily having daily addition or multiplication, but like, how do we live this faith out? And I always feel like when we're experiencing people coming to faith, like we can put them in a short-term program, but there's not always something that's just like ongoing, sustainable, consistent that people need. And we just looked at the pattern of Acts and said, we really feel like that's the DNA of the church is to not forsake the gathering on a Sunday with communion and worship and preaching of the word. In our large gatherings in the temple, I know you have temple to table language, and you see that in Acts 2, and you see that elsewhere, of course, in the New Testament. But that was really our heart and vision. So when we saw Bellows model, and especially how much wisdom they had in implementation,
mhm.
it was kind of like when I was reading some of their books, Multiply or Multiplication
Yeah.
and Transition, I think is the other one. I was like, oh my goodness, this is why some of our ideas haven't worked so well.
Yes.
I
Yeah.
wish I had this wisdom. So it's been a godsend to have you guys running ahead of us. And, you know, yeah, it's been awesome to have you guys run ahead and be an example and a sounding board and give wisdom. And then I've got to visit Bello Church with you guys on one of the global trips and glean from them. And it's been great. So we just launched our groups most groups launched about a month ago or so. My group in our homes had 2 weeks going now, and we had 3 guests on our second week. We had no shows
Wow.
on our first week because of illnesses. And, we're just like, we're going for it. So, man, how long have you guys been running your groups now?
So for about 2 years, it's been quite the transition. We were a church that didn't have these types of groups. Of course, they had small groups like any other church, but in those small groups, we find that it's mostly Christians meeting together. They don't multiply; they become cliques,
Mhm.
and they might be really good friendships and relationships, but it wasn't advancing the kingdom. And Ruth and I would just always had this thing. It's like, man, I'm going to stand before God one day, and He's going to say, "What'd you do with what I gave you?" And if my response is, "Hey, I got 2,000 Christians from other churches to come to my church, and I was considered a success by all my Christian peers,"
Uh,
I would feel embarrassed.
mm,
I want to be able to say, even if it's 50 people, I'd want to say, God, we activated your body and we went after the lost and advanced your
yeah,
kingdom. And I'd feel way more proud having a church of a few hundred that did that faithfully than having a church of 2,000 of full-on believers. And again, we are not forsaking the Sunday gathering.
Mhm.
We believe it's biblical. We believe church,
Mhm.
the history of the church. We would come together and be one body, one mind, worshiping Jesus, glorifying his name, receiving his word, receiving communion together. We do that every Sunday. We love that.
Yeah.
But being a Christian costs you something. And one of those things is going to be time and commitment. And so we really challenged the current culture and transitioned to doing these table groups, which means that we are a church that meets on Sundays and during the week in small homes. And it's been quite the awesome experience, the hardest thing and
Mhm.
best thing we've ever done by far.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Right. Well, you talked about like being prepared to stand before the Lord, and what was interesting to me at being at Central Church in Bella with Pastor Paulo Marzoni, who started the model that they're using and everything, he he really was emphasizing that a lot. Like, what are we gonna do as a pastor, even when we stand before the Lord? And what are we gonna, like, did we prepare our churches? Did
Yeah.
we get them ready for Judgment Day? Like,
Right.
did we get them ready to give an account for how they're stewarding their Christian walk? Are they winning souls? Are they making disciples? And I thought, man, um, that to me it's a really powerful motivator to be like, what are we doing with our lives in ministries? And one of the things that attracted me to this, for years I've read on house churches and simple churches and Alan Hirsch and the missional church movements. And I love, a lot of the things that I've read, missional communities, but I was always kind of searching. But like one of the things I like about what they do is just like the integration of everything, because I feel like Western churches can be very, American churches can be very program driven, right? So you have a Sunday service, and then if you want to like do outreach, you join the outreach team. And I mean,
Yeah.
we still have a street outreach team. We're not, that's and they do a great job. But kind of like, and then you do a Bible study. If you do a 10-week or 12-week series, then you jump to this and then you jump to that. But like what I like about table group model is how integrated things are, because um we think like, are these, and even conceptually, I think some people are like, well, I don't really want to join right now because I need to have some of my own needs met. I'm not really like looking to do outreach right now. Like, I'm really tired. I'm praying and witnessing in my lifestyle to all these people, and I don't want to I don't want to start another thing that taxes me. And I'm like, well, you're still with other Christians that form the leadership core, and
Yeah.
you are fellowshipping with people, you're eating together, you are doing Bible study, you are praying for each other, and you're doing outreach. It's like
Yeah.
it's really more like a micro church in a lot of ways. It's like the church is, a lot of people have used that. You gather on a Sunday and you're the church gathered, and you scatter, if you meet when, depending on when you meet, right? But like, say you meet on a Tuesday, you scatter on a Tuesday, but you're still the church scattered. You're not no longer the church. And so you can accomplish mission and discipleship.
Yeah.
You can accomplish outreach and discipleship and have fellowship and have prayer. It's
Yeah.
like these things are not necessarily like mutually exclusive Christian activities.
Right.
So I love the integrated nature of it, and that it's not like we meet once a month, or we take, these big breaks. I mean, obviously groups have to take a break for family or life schedules at times, but it's a consistent weekly rhythm of life,
Yeah.
to try to build true community with people. And of course, we want to be kingdom minded and we want to win souls. And I just think that this is the most important way we can connect to people, is
Yeah.
to be an ongoing presence in their lives. Because I've found as a pastor that when a lot of people would make a decision for Christ, but they don't have people that they're like really deeply connected to, it's not real likely that they're going to stick around.
Right.
Um, we're having the most success we've had, I feel like, with a new believers class that we've ever had, but we're working really hard on getting people there. I don't know, maybe it's just God's favor is on it.
Yeah.
But it's really hard to get people to make a decision with no relationship, just to jump into a class and really stick. At least it has been in our city, over the years. But this is like giving people a community before they're saved. and then obviously when they put their faith in Christ, then they just continue
That's
into the
right.
same process of discipleship. So it's like it's like pre-discipleship
Yeah,
is a part of the evangelism.
I always tell people, don't worry about salvation. Like,
Hmm.
start discipling them right away.
Yeah.
A part of that journey, they're going to get saved. It's kind of like,
Yeah.
when were the disciples saved? I don't know.
Right.
I mean, there's a point where they believe, there's a point where they doubt it. I mean, even was it at the end of Matthew, it says that Jesus is on the mountain and he's doing the Great Commission. Right before the Great Commission it says, and
Right.
some doubt it. You're like, wait,
Yeah.
they're at the mountain with Jesus and some are doubting still, it's like, but Jesus didn't care. He's like, just so the thing is, it's like we need to not focus on like making this like a sales pitch moment where they
Uh-huh.
accept Christ. What I find in table group is that they come to a point where they start believing and they just like there's like little obstacles like they might say like, hey, I want to try praying, how do I do that? And you're like, oh, this is how you do that. Or they might go, well, what about this? Why, how could God be exist if there's evil in the world? And you're like, you're talking through and so they go, oh yeah, that makes sense. Or they'll flesh it out, and then at some point they're contributing more and more at table group. And I've had the point where I've said like, hey, you keep talking as though you believe, and
Uh-huh.
they go, I think I do. And I was like,
Come
awesome.
on.
And then they started coming to church. And then one Sunday, that person comes forward to give their life to Christ, weeping. And the next table group, I said, hey, a couple weeks ago, you said you believe, and then you came forward to give your heart to Jesus. She goes, I believed in my head, but on that
Hmm.
Sunday, I believed in my heart. And I
Mm.
was like, beautiful. And what we
Right.
find now, John, 2 years into this, is that the table group visitors are building such core relationships that the leaders, it's not a secret where, they all go
Hmm.
to New Life City. So we're talking about church, all that stuff, even at table group, not promoting church, just, oh, did
Hmm.
you hear that new worship song or whatever? And then they visit our church. And so every Sunday I do an altar call now. And every Sunday we're getting people giving their life to Christ. It might not be at both services, but at one of the
Hmm.
services, and then last week, 2 weeks ago, um, we gave an altar call, and there were so many table group visitors, and I'll
Hmm.
tell you why in a second, that we had 10 salvations, mostly
Come on.
table group visitors giving their life to Jesus that had never gone to church before. Now, here's the crazy thing that's going to blow your mind because
Yeah.
we were
Come
talking to
on.
church in Bello, and we were like,
Yeah.
hey, we also talk with church consultants while we're doing our own table group mission. We just want to know like, hey, what's the best way to keep Sunday morning a really good gathering? How do we continue? Like, where do we need to be in our finances? We just talk about a
Yeah.
lot of different things with church consultants. And they heard about our model and they said, wait, you're asking people to go to church on Sunday and then table group during the week. They're like, and you're going to ask them to serve on a Sunday? They're like, that's too many asks. And I was like, oh, they're like, yeah, you can only ask them two things:
Mm.
church on Sunday and serving. And then of course they can give, but these two things are
Mm.
the 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 physical asks. And they said, if you're asking them to do table groups, that's just too much. You're gonna only get one or the other. And so I talked to Daniel Mazzoni, and he's like, because we need people to serve in church on Sunday.
Yeah.
And he's like, oh, Paul, our serve teams are the table groups. They
Hmm.
they serve on Sunday. And we said, what? So we tried it. And every week we have a table group signed up to do greeting and
Mm.
welcoming. We're just testing out the. So what happens is at table group, we have all these visitors and we have regular attendees, people who are now new believers being discipled. We said, hey,
Yeah.
it's our turn in 2 weeks to be the greeters. Then the week before, hey guys, this weekend it's our turn
Hmm.
to greet and welcome. Who can I rely on to come? So my table group did it 2 weekends ago, and then another table group, and we all came out. I had guys who was unbelievers holding out signs,
Yeah. Come on.
saying welcome to because they knew they were with a group that they know, and they were
Yeah.
just like, yeah, we can, and they loved it. And then they
Yeah.
do service. It was the first time they came to church, and then in that service they give their life to Christ. And so we have. our hospitality team right now is just table
Mhm.
group in
That's
rotation.
great. Yeah.
So it's just I'm just saying like the crossover is just unbelievable. And our best Christians, and if you grew up in the church, I apologize, you might get offended by this, but our best Christian and our church is you know, the ones who got saved at table group
Oh,
because they go, this, of course, this is my life. Of course, I go to church on
yeah.
Sunday and I go to table group, and of course, I serve.
Yeah.
I don't know any other difference. Whereas
Yeah.
this is a broad stroke here, but the majority of people out in the congregation who've come here for 20 years have maybe been used to attending and leaving. And so to ask them to do something else, it's like, whoa, that's a lot. You're
Mhm.
asking a lot, you know.
Yeah.
Sorry, talk too long.
No, you didn't. No, I love it, man. This is exactly why I wanted to talk today. This is what we need to hear. And I mean, I think that our, um, our people, uh, you know, they they need opportunities to serve in teams. Like, and some of my studies I've done towards my master's, and hopefully I'll finish it one of these days. I got a bunch of writing to do, but it's making my eye twitch, I think. But like like the early church was organized in like temple gatherings, like what you call tables, and we've adopted that language because we had our group, small groups called Jesus communities. So we borrowed your name
Yeah.
to piggyback off it. And then like the other thing is that though that the New Testament also had ministry teams because you had elders, you had deacons, you
Yes.
had fivefold ministers of the gospel, you had itinerant people, you had church leadership. So like you can't really organizationally for a long time I was like I'm going to get rid of everything other than like the temple gatherings, if you will, and the team and the tables, and that's all we're going to do. And but then as I was studying more, I was like, no, there is a function of ministry that raises up leaders and does pastoral care and does missions and does outreach and does Christian education, if you will. And so like there has to be some kind of other place that the church makes room for organization. But that's really how I see the New Testament church. And maybe to people that is like a big ask, but I think we're building most of our churches and our models for people that are already Christians. So in some ways, I think the hardest part of transitioning into a table group model for me, and like you said, it's the hardest thing we've ever done and the greatest, is like it's really hard to convince people that are already busy that have been in church a really long time that they need to go through more training and then adopt this model that's new to them. And it's hard to explain how the model is different because it's not like rock. It's not like the most
Not rocket
fancy,
science.
crazy. It's so simple.
Yeah,
It's
very
like that's
simple.
the beauty of it.
Yeah.
It's like so easy to operate. Even a child could understand.
Yeah.
Like like the ultimate salesman pitch. But we're usually thinking of like, well, how does this affect everybody that I already lead and it's already in the church? But I'm like, we barely ever think of what about getting somebody who's outside the faith to come to a place where they can hear about Christ, wrestle with their doubts and questions, be accepted and loved, and also instructed in the way of Jesus, and then make a decision for Christ. And then how can that person be discipled and equipped as a new believer, and then ultimately as a leader? And the table group encompasses all those things. It goes beyond just getting them even through basic Christianity like knowledge, right? But even to get them in a development
Yeah.
and into a course of training so that they can eventually lead their own group. And so I love that we are thinking through that, but it is painful, and even like you feel stress as a leader over it sometimes because you're like, oh boy, I got to really, it's not even just the first vision pitch. I got to keep selling this thing and keep inspiring, coaching, motivating,
Yeah.
re envisioning why we do this because of that, the people, the harvest that you want to bring in, the kingdom, the souls that are on the line.
Mhm.
And but yet how you can integrate them. So I love how as you're sharing about it, it's like to me it's so prominent. Like we're not just trying to think of how does this benefit us, although I would argue that people that are really committed in church, if they would adopt models like this, especially the ones that are the most overworked, it could actually add more like when you want to say symmetry or congruence to their life. And
Burden.
like, hey, you're trying to follow up 15 people a month and like have all these one-on-one coffees, like bring them into your living room
Right.
and
Yeah.
like meet with them every week and this
Yeah.
like keep building people intentionally, you know as a group and consolidate your time. That's the word, consolidation.
Yeah.
But anyway, so I love what you're sharing. What and then you mentioned that you're encouraging your table group leaders to disciple people before they're a Christian. Do you have any like practicals? Like what does that look like to you when you say to start discipling them before they've made the decision to follow
I
Christ?
think it's a perspective change because um, for some reason people feel like that they're selling Jesus when we talk
Hmm.
about evangelism. We go, hey, like so that they kind of have this perspective of like, okay, I'm gonna bring them along and then
Hmm.
I'm gonna confront them and I'm gonna go, you need to accept Christ. What's stopping you right now? Da, da, da. And it's
Hmm.
like a switch. And I'm like, we want to take that out, that awkwardness out. And it's, you're building relationship and you're leading by example, right?
Hmm.
So a lot of it's just even culture setting. Like, a lot of our visitors, when they come the first time, they're like dropping curse words and, saying things, but you just like, they realize like atmospherically, oh, this, like, no one else is saying the F word constantly.
Yeah.
And so it's like all of a sudden they change, and then they get more curious about the Bible because that's what relationally we're all focusing on. And I also want to say that God is doing a work way beyond what we can do in their life.
Yeah.
So remember, your most powerful thing you can do for them during this time is pray for them, like pray for them. And then God kind of guides them into that discipleship. And then it's not you making the decision for them, it's them making the decision for themselves with God. So you're journeying your relationship with them until they actually that switch goes, I want to give my life to him. And there's
Mhm.
only a couple people that they needed the push, and I was so close with them as friends, like some of my best friends locally, that I was just like, bro, you come to church, you pray, you get words of knowledge from, I don't even know how that's possible. And you still won't say that you want to give your life. What is stopping you? And I said at this point, I just can't I can't stand before God one day if something were to happen to you and be
Right.
like,
Right.
why didn't I make you
Hmm.
tell me why you're not deciding to follow Christ, And so, and he gave his answer and he's still journeying. But if you were to ask me, he's a Christian.
Yeah.
He just doesn't want to say he is. It's
Huh.
really weird.
Yeah.
Um, but he's an amazing guy, and I love him to death. But so anyway, so the whole point is sometimes Protestants, we focus on a sinner's prayer
Yeah.
and then we forget them.
Hmm.
So we go, yeah, we got 10 people saved at church 2 weeks ago. They said the sinner's prayer. And then you try to follow up. Half the time people don't even contact them. You don't know what happened in their journey.
Right.
They made a decision, hopefully an authentic one, but sometimes an emotional one. And they're like a rope of sand, as George Whitefield said, right? You just
Yeah.
don't know where they are. And you just have to trust God. Whereas here, you're journeying with them, they make the
Hmm.
decision, and they're already in relationship with everyone. So we celebrate, like the gentleman at our table group. We 2 weeks ago he gave his life. We celebrated that at table group. We asked him how he's doing. What's his wife think about it because she hasn't done it yet. He's like,
Hmm.
he goes, I'm working on her, right? Because
Yeah.
it's what once you catch the fire, it spreads, right? So.
Yep.
Um, so I really think it's important to focus on discipleship, not salvation. Salvation
Mhm.
is a product of discipleship in a weird way. All of
Yeah.
it's evangelism. Okay.
Right.
So I pre-disciple them, like Jesus said to the
Uh,
disciples, follow me.
yep.
And then I disciple them until they realize they need to give their life to Christ. And of course, I tell them about, how to give their life to Christ during that time, but
Uh-huh.
they finally go, I think I'm ready to make that decision.
Yeah. Do you, um how did things start for you guys? Was it like where most of your groups get a ton of visitors right out of the gate, or was there just like one or two guests, real slow, and or it took some people months? Like how would you like speak in to
Yeah.
like all our people that have already started. And then we have another wave, that are hopefully joining us in April for our next school leaders
Yeah.
to join in as well.
That's a great question. So I love the fact that it didn't blow up right away. I love the
Uh-huh.
fact that my own group struggled, that we prayed for a month before we ever even got a visitor. And sometimes we'd get no visitors, then we get one or two. And we're not hoping to get 20 people to show up and have a big party every week. What we want is God to bring the one who's going to bring the one who's going to bring the.
Yeah.
And so, some groups grew quickly. A lot of groups did not. It's all about prayer and faithfulness, and I think that is two big things. Is that you specifically pray for people that you want to invite, and you keep praying for them. And if you don't know anyone yet, you go, God, would you bring around people that you want me to be in relationship with to invite? I pray that prayer personally. I'm a
Yeah.
pastor. I deal with Christians 99% of the time, but I invite people and they
Oh,
come.
I feel like I'm praying more now. Like,
Yeah,
um, not that my like quiet time with the Lord is longer. Um, I would like it to be longer. I'm working on it. But like throughout the day, like I mean, I kind of have that kind of prayer life anyway. But like now, I'm praying for specific people, for
yes,
our group, for our other groups,
yeah,
and for like all throughout the day, I have this like burden on my heart for the people that come to my own group.
yeah,
And I was telling our church that on Sunday, like my prayer life, I'm telling you, like it's one thing for us to pray for our city of Everett here where we're at, and
yeah,
like God send revival to Everett. But I'm like, no, I'm praying for people by name, that
yes,
God would draw them, awaken them.
yes,
I'm not just praying for the harvest in general, I'm praying for it in specific. And
yeah,
to me, that's one of the most beautiful things that the table group does for the church,
yeah,
is that it gives people, like I've been saying, like every believer gets to carry a part of the Great Commission,
yeah. Oh, that's
and
good.
it gives you that, like that ownership and that buy-in, and like you feel the weight of it, like in a good way, because
Yeah,
you're like you feel the heart of the Lord for these people. And it's not up to the pastor or whatever, like it's up to you as the leader, and or one of the group assistant leaders, right, the host, to invite people.
yeah.
And so no, it is strangely encouraging to hear
Oh,
how
yeah.
challenging
Oh,
it
yeah.
can be out of the gate,
We've
right?
had some groups just it didn't work out. We've had to break them up and reform,
Yeah.
and that's okay. That's all part of the journey. It's like I tell
Yeah.
people we're not celebrating, how many people out of the gate come. We're just celebrating faithfulness. We're celebrating
That's
prayer
good.
and faithfulness. The faithful you are with this, the more it opens up. And so so now my group has multiplied once already. It's getting
Uh-huh.
ready to multiply again in the next few
Oh,
months.
that's great.
And I pray. This is the prayer I prayed. I'll just tell you a quick anecdotal
Mhm.
story that's recent. I prayed,
Mhm.
God, would you just bring people in my life that I could invite, that I could build a relationship with, that I could share the gospel with. So, I do jujitsu
Yeah.
1 to 3 times a week, mostly once right now.
uh
And connected with a guy there who just moved
yeah.
from Oklahoma, who's has an amazing family, and and we just connected. And so like now every time we see each other, it's like, Paul, how you doing? Because in jiu-jitsu you get close real quick,
Yeah,
because you're literally choking each other out.
that's right.
And so I just start praying for him every night. Just God, I won't say his name because he might
Yeah.
listen to this, but
Right, you never know.
so I'm just like, bless him, bless his family, like draw him, soften his heart, God, and create a situation where I could,
Mhm.
open up and invite him. A
Mhm.
couple months go by, and I say, "Hey, bro, would you want to come to this thing? It has community. I think it would be a blessing for your family. We talk about Jesus, but you don't have to come if you don't want. You don't have to talk about it if you don't want, but just come. Your kids will love it." So it's not a bait and switch. It's exactly
Mhm.
what it is. And so he comes. He's like, "Sure." I'm like, "Really?" Like,
Yeah.
yeah. Like I waited months to do this, but
Yeah.
and he came with his wife and his kids. His kids loved it. We're out in
Mhm.
the back patio cooking up burgers before we start. And he says to me, he goes, "Hey man, I'm so glad you invited me to this. Like, I've been in church twice my whole life." He goes, "But I've been like asking, God, how do I learn more about you?" And I'm
Come
like,
on.
"Oh, yeah, God's doing all the work in the
Mhm.
background. So now he's like
Yeah.
coming almost every week, and
Mm.
he just told his wife, "Hey, I want to go to church."
Yeah.
And she's like, "What?" You and she's raised
Yeah.
Catholic and they don't go to church, but
Mhm.
she's not against God. He
Right.
used to be. Now he wants to know more. So
Yeah.
he's gonna I know he's gonna get saved in like a month. You
It's
know,
beautiful, man.
it's awesome. And yeah, I talk we when we're talking
Yeah.
about I'm discipling already. I'm talking about what a good
Yeah.
father looks like, what a good
Uh,
husband looks like, how we need to
mhm.
protect our children,
Mhm.
and we're just having conversation and chatting. But what it's doing, it's refining him, and he's going, "Oh yeah." I
Mhm.
talk about the dangers of pornography and all this stuff. And he's like, his mind's being renewed. And then it's now going to be a point where it's like he's going to come to church, give his life to Christ, or give his life to Christ at table group.
Yeah.
So it is.
No. Yeah. I mean, our our sister-in-law runs a outreach to public schools here called LifeWise, and like they do like during public school hours they do Bible studies, and
Wow.
they it's the whole like constitutional protection apparently if you do it
Yeah.
off campus and you pay for it, like they
Yeah.
can do time released, right? So
Yeah.
anyway, but my sister-in-law is telling us that like several parents come and say thank you for doing this that aren't Christians because my kid has so many questions about God.
Wow.
And I'm so thankful that when this came up, it said you're going to go study the Bible. Like you guys are going to be able to help answer all these questions for my kid,
It's
you know?
awesome.
But just illustrating, like I think we forget how much God is at work in people's lives and how much of a people have a longing, like you're talking about your friend from jiu-jitsu, like he's just like I've been wondering like how do I know more about God?
Right.
And they're not necessarily verbalizing that, so we kind of think like, oh well, this culture is very secular and opposed to the gospel, but like no, but God is revealing himself to people and he's giving people longings and dreams, and there's
Yeah.
questions that they can't answer. And so I think it's so amazing. Is that usually how you pitch inviting somebody to a group then? Is just like,
Yeah.
hey, it's community, we talk about Jesus or have a little Bible study. You don't have to say anything. You can just observe, but like I think you'd enjoy it. Like I mean, our group to me, we're a lot of fun. Like
Yeah. Totally.
it's very life-giving to walk into our home and have some food, and there's a lot of like joy
I mean, the
and
majority of the time is chatting, right? So I'm
mhm.
like, hey, we have this community, we just connect.
Yeah,
I think community is so important. Today everyone wants to isolate and a lot of people are lonely. So I just say, yeah, it's community based. A bunch of families get together. I think you'd really get along with them. And we have some food and then we talk about Jesus for a little bit. That's it, or we read the
yeah,
Bible for a little bit. That's it. That's the pitch. And
yeah. It's great.
they never the only people who make table group awkward are Christians
Uh-huh.
because they're so worried about what the unbelievers are thinking. But the
Yeah.
unbelievers don't. They're just going, oh, I guess this is what you do. We do a
Yep.
worship song. Everyone's like, oh, they don't know
Yeah.
kind of a weird thing. But to them, they're just like, when I talk to them later, like after they're like, no,
Huh?
I just figured this is what you guys do.
Yep.
They didn't like consider it crazy. It's music.
Well, as you know, a lot of people in the culture are longing for something that challenges them and they want to find like a way, which is kind of funny. Like you talk about martial arts, because it's like you go there just expecting to learn what the people that have mastered it know, right? And they're just passing on their knowledge,
Right.
right? It's like Christianity, we sometimes, I mean, we have a good impulse to try to meet people where they're at. That's very Christ-like on the one hand, but when you take that too far, like you start dumbing down, if you start dumbing down the actual message or the actual cost of following Jesus or essentials like worship and prayer, you
Right.
know, a true Bible study, like people are like, they want to know this stuff because they're like, if I'm going to become this, maybe like I want to find out the real version. I don't want to be some wannabe cheap imitation version of a Christian. I want to find out what is the real deal like. I love how you're sharing that. But do you guys have something figured out for kids? Because I think this is one of the things as we're starting out, it's like, oh, this is a little, and it might, of course, every house is set up different and every group has different
Yeah.
strengths of like
Dynamic.
people's dynamic or whatever. But have you figured out like kind of a one size fits all, or does it kind of vary from group to group?
So we do have a curriculum that we give kids because we consider
Mhm.
children's groups table groups as well because
Okay.
they oftentimes the kids will get saved before the parents.
Mm.
They'll give their life to Jesus and they love it,
Yeah.
and they're also like the best evangelists. And so we treat them with the highest honor, children. So we want to do it right. So every week, our children's ministry creates a curriculum that's in a box with crafts, and it's by week. So for every month, so they get a month's worth with crafts and curriculum in a box. And it's mostly for ages like, 3 to 13-ish. Like it kind of can hit
Mhm.
all that. But the older teenagers, we try to do their own group if there's multiple teenagers, where they
Mhm.
just do their own group with a leader. And then the adults have a place. So you have children, adults, and teenagers if you have a large teenage group.
In the
Um,
same house at the same time?
Mhm. Yeah,
Oh,
just
okay.
go to the side room. So fellowship, worship's
Hmm.
all together.
Yeah.
This is just for like the last 20 minutes.
Hmm.
Um, and so we're like, okay, guys, let's break up and you do your own things. And I mean, we don't like to do like private bedroom kind of closed
Right.
thing.
Right.
It'd be like we live in New Mexico, right? So the outdoors is always
Hmm.
acceptable. So it's like the kids might
That's
literally
nice.
we have a large trampoline in our house at our background. So they all like sit in a circle on the trampoline and the leader's there, like
Oh, cool.
working with them. And then we have tables outside that they do crafts. And then we have multiple, like a kitchen and a living room where there might be two groups going on at the same time. So yeah, so that's what we do for children. And the hardest ones are the littlest kids because they're not really able to do a lesson plan yet.
Mhm.
Um, so what we try to do is maybe like a little craft or try to keep their attention, or really the parent just has to hold a baby, kind of thing.
Sure.
You
Sure.
don't have nursery care at
Hmm.
places. Um, but usually the babies are held by all the adults. Like we pass the babies around and try to help, care for them. And I only say this, I have a lot of experience because my group on an average week will have 15 to 20 children.
Mm. Oh, wow.
Because my family is a large family. We have 5 kids. We attract
Yeah.
people with large families. Swimming lessons, all the
Hmm.
different co extracurricular activities we do. That's how we meet people, and then we
Yeah.
invite them, and so they bring their kids, which are at least 3 to 4. The average family is 3 to 5 kids that we have over.
Wow.
It might be 6 adults and 15.
Yeah.
Crazy.
And if your kids are involved, and that's a great blessing too, because they
Yeah.
pay attention and kind of help set the tone for like, how to focus in the group or like be a part of things.
Yeah, one thing we've realized is like if you can get one of the leaders to take responsibility to be like, I will be responsible for the children's
Hmm.
lesson every week, even if that's like asking someone else to do it, one of the other
Hmm.
leaders an update, but at least they're like taking ownership. So
Yeah.
they know like, okay, I'm going to be the one who like gets the kids and brings them over to the side and will
Hmm.
help. Um, and then we like to empower kids to help us teach the lesson. So
Hmm.
we'll maybe some of the little bit older kids will go through it with them beforehand, and then they'll help teach. And that what that's doing is actually they're learning while they're teaching, and then they also
Yeah.
have respect from the other kids. And so there's like little tweaks like that we've learned that really help engage.
Do you follow the same curriculum with that month that the adults are doing, or is it just a separate
It's
thing for
different.
kids?
It's separate.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
Something that the children's ministry has access to, like their curriculum resources and stuff.
Yes. Yeah. I can run out and show you a box if you want, but I can send it to you later. But
Yeah, no worries. That's
yeah,
great. We have a lot of good tools and resources. I was just
sure.
wondering if it synced up with the
No,
same stuff that the adults did or not.
it
Yeah.
isn't, and that's just because
Mm.
for our staff, that's the best way to do
Sure.
it. Yeah. So,
Yeah. We're, when you guys gave us your model, your template that you're using on your table group website, which what is that again, by the way?
templetotable.com.
That's right. Templetotable.com. That's right. Um, we had actually envisioned pretty much the same pattern that I guess it became a little bit newer version for you, but just like
Yeah.
this Bible study,
Yeah.
because I feel like it's so beneficial to people that are seeking the faith and then
Yeah.
to Christians too. Like,
Yeah.
so I think that everybody needs to study the Bible.
Yeah.
And so
Yeah.
that it's guided, but it leaves a lot of good flexibility too. Like if people have deeper questions, it's going to be a deeper night. If they don't and they're not there, it's going to naturally gravitate towards where the group is,
Yes.
at. And so I loved the flexibility of it with also having a good flow. And I think from running small groups, um, I think if people want to dive really deep, like in theology and stuff as Christians, it's probably actually better to take courses and go to like Bible school or,
Right.
or something like that. Because if you're just gonna have a group discussion over a passage, like, and everybody gets to share, like you don't have that much time
Right.
to go through like huge lessons in a group environment. It kind of becomes just more of a lecture of the few most knowledgeable ones.
Yes.
If so like even when I've run groups with Christians before, I started realizing like, oh, I want to cover like the ground as if I'm teaching like a class, like almost like a Bible school class or a new believers where it's like lecture heavy. And I don't want it to be a lecture,
Right.
but if I'm going to cover this much material, then it's got to be a lecture. And
Yeah.
so if I want a group dynamic, I got to go way more focused on a smaller passage or like
Yeah.
more of a basic idea and then let everybody start sharing. And when there's spiritual transformation happen and people are having light bulb moments, that's so rewarding to see how people come into the truth as God is leading them and that they're, like self-discovery versus you just telling them what to think. And I do think there's a place for like catechetical instruction where you're telling people like, hey, Christians believe in the Trinity. We
Right.
baptize in water. This is not, there's not everything's a group discussion in
Yeah.
Christianity, but
Yeah.
you need a place for that uh, as a very important part of your spiritual growth, whether you're not a Christian yet or you've already become a believer.
Right.
Um, so I think I love the way that you guys are doing those lessons, and it's been very natural for us
Good.
to adopt that same model.
Yeah. We love it. We still do like, Foundations of Faith, which is more of a
Right.
catechism, right? So
Yep.
those are on Sunday mornings, and we don't advertise in the church our
Mhm.
Foundations of Faith classes. We
Oh,
advertise in the table groups,
mm.
and we also ask leaders to personally invite newer believers to go to Foundations of Faith. And it's at 11 a.m. on Sundays. It's
Okay.
during the second service.
Wow.
So what they can do is like they can bring their kids, drop the kids off at children's ministry, go and
Mhm.
learn Foundations of Faith. Um, and then so there is like personal relational discipleship, which is necessary. And then there's the catechism, more like educational, theological, like, hey,
Yep.
this, if you don't believe in this, it's New Age, right? Like, so this is Christianity, this is not Christianity. So we go over,
Yep. Right.
Trinity, sanctification,
Mhm.
who is God, what is why is there evil in the world? We talk about a lot of different things.
Oh,
Grace,
that's
what
great.
does grace mean? All the Christian tenets of the faith.
Yeah. I
Yeah.
just finished our catechism, just like real, like I shared it with our church 2 weeks ago, like publicly. We've been using it behind the scenes in we call it like, yeah, Foundations for Faith
Uh,
or, uh, as well. And we've been using that for like the beta version of it before we like shared it with the church. But that's the idea is that as people come to salvation through the table groups, and then if they get saved on a Sunday, that we try to get them in that course. Like we're gonna basically have it always running.
yeah.
There might be a little break in the summer, but not like a real long-term break.
Yeah.
So that basically anytime somebody's saved, they can just jump in on any week.
Yeah.
And then even the way our catechism is laid out, like if somebody couldn't make the class, like someone in their table group or the person that helped lead them to Christ could take them through the material really easily. I
Right.
mean, they can even read it themselves because it's just question and answer. Like,
Yeah.
what is the gospel? And then the good news of Jesus Christ. Who is Jesus Christ? Well, he's the Son
Yeah.
of God. Who is God? So that's kind of, we start from what do you believe? And then you move into how do you practice the Christian faith personally
Right.
inside the community of the church and then outwardly on mission. And so it covers like 10 spiritual practices or disciplines that kind of come out of what our beliefs are. So we had kind of that component. So we have foundations of faith, and then we want people to become a member of the church and be baptized.
Right.
Coming out of that, that's like we
Yeah.
and that's like a 3 hour class membership. It's like not like 10 or 12 weeks like our foundations class. And then we have our school of leaders now that we've adopted from you guys in Bello. And then our fourth class is going to be what we call School of the Spirit, and that's going to teach people how to minister healing, prophecy, and deliverance,
Awesome.
kind of like it to be like use their spiritual gifts. So
Yeah.
that's kind of like our leadership track.
I
That's
like
like
that.
behind the scenes that we're like 3/4 of the way developed, or maybe a little less than that. But 3 out of the 4 courses are now have been taught and are scheduled to be teaching, and we're strategizing on our last kind of class 4. But
That's
we've
awesome.
had some of this infrastructure part we've already had before table groups, and like table groups has been kind of the missing,
Link.
piece, the
Yeah.
missing link for us. So we're trying to balance like how do we don't want people to be too busy doing other things, but then they do need good training for certain parts of the Christian life. So we've tried to pare away things that are like maybe they're good things that churches do, but we want people to have space to have people in their home and to spend time with people relationally over a long period of time and not get so busy with just church activities, if you will, although some of them can be great activities.
Yeah, and that's what we've done as a church. We've cleared the schedule. Any
Mhm.
extracurricular church activities we try to do during one of the services,
Mhm.
so that people don't have to miss table group. So because we have 2 services, if they want to do foundations class, they'll come to the 9 a.m. and go to church, and then go to 11 a.m. foundations class, and then the rest of our week's clear. They can do table group. So that's kind of, table group training. Sunday is it happens on Sunday evening. Um, so Sunday is not a table group day. It's like we don't have any table groups on a Sunday. So we do a lot of trainings and extracurricular stuff on Sunday. And again, everything else, feeds into the table group or vice versa. Table group feeds back into the church. And
Yeah.
it's been super awesome to see. And I love that what you guys do. And I wrote down the School of the Spirit because I think that's one of our missing links where we're like, how do we add to that? We're going to do an encounter weekend at the end of Freedom uh,
Okay.
Foundations of Faith, excuse me. So we'll do that as well. And,
That's good.
and
Yeah, we're trying to basically like incorporate that into our foundations. We have like deliverance in there,
yeah,
and so they cover it in class and baptism in the Holy Spirit. And then when the School of the Spirit would be like, well, they're getting training if they need more ministry. Then like,
good.
so kind of like on the front end, if one class 101, and then on 401,
Yeah,
there's
right.
a little bit
Good.
more. And of course, you guys pray for people on Sundays after
Right.
service and stuff
Yeah,
too, and
absolutely.
have other chances for ministry. But yeah, I think that's a great model to have kind of an encounter component with your foundations.
It's really interesting. Like culturally, there's still a few, people who are like, why are we talking about table groups all the time? Why are we doing this? Why can't we walk and chew gum at the same time and do other things? And I get what they're saying, and these people have
Mhm.
great hearts and love the Lord. Um,
Mhm.
it's so funny. If I just called these life groups and didn't talk about evangelism, they would never complain. It's it's because subconsciously the table group has a focus of evangelism that I think it rubs them the wrong way. And
Yeah.
and it kind of brings out a religious spirit that they don't realize they're carrying, in my opinion.
Yeah, I think that a lot of people, and probably because of the way we've done it, evangelism or conceptualized it as always like, I've done a lot of that street evangelism. I used to lead
Yeah,
our evangelism team for years and did all this training and conferences about it. And I can confront people. I'm not saying I was always comfortable doing it, but I just thought that was the only way, maybe.
yeah,
And I do think there is a time to like preaching in a Sunday, like you said, you're calling people to Christ and they're receiving, but all that hard work's been done in the table group and the relationship of the people. But I think that some of our best evangelists are probably people that don't think they are. They're just there because they would just faithfully walk with somebody, you
yeah,
know, and so they're like afraid of it because they think they have to become something else or it's going to be really stressful. But it's like, no, they just be a friend and be
yeah,
faithful. And you like to study the Bible and explain things to people. Like, I think our model, this gives a a model to people with a different personality type,
Yes.
or to the teacher or the pastoral type person that could be very successful in
Oh,
winning souls.
let me give you some stats here. This,
Yeah.
this is a statistic from the Mormon Church, and I heard Ian
Mm,
McDonald talk about this. No, Landon
mhm.
McDonald. He's great.
Landon.
Yeah,
Yeah.
Landon, he's great. But it blew me away, and it just kind of speaks into it. So the Mormons, they do their own stats, and they are big on evangelism. Mormons are not Christian, in my opinion. They don't
Yeah.
have the Holy Spirit in the same way we do. They don't believe in the same Jesus. Okay.
Right.
But they focus on evangelism and they're growing. So the Mormon Church says that if they go up to random people and door knock, they will get 1 in 100,000 converted.
Hmm.
Massive number there. So they got to get their people to knock on 100,000 doors to get one convert. If they knock on a door or evangelize someone who is in relationship with a Mormon, but they're not Mormon, but they know a Mormon, they're in relationship with one, the conversion rate is 1 in 50.
Yeah. It's a big change.
Big change
100,000 down to 50.
down to 50. So we have the Holy Spirit, we have Jesus, and we need to evangelize in relationship. This is what we need to do. 82%, this is not a Mormon statistic, this is a Christian church statistic. 82% of people who don't believe will come to church if you're in relationship with them and you ask them to come to church.
Yep.
Same goes with table group. If you have a relationship with the person, 82% of them will come if you invite them. If they
Hmm.
don't come, you might not have the right relationship with them yet. Or you have to pray and ask God to soften their heart more.
Yep.
So, but one of the biggest feedback we got from our leaders were the first few weeks, they were blown away by who said yes.
Mm.
They're like, these people hate the church. They hate Jesus.
Huh.
But they said yes to this. And they were like
Yeah.
open. And I was like, yeah. So I thought that's really good and encouraging because I believe the
Amazing.
harvest is so ripe. It's so ripe.
Yeah. I love how Paul says in 2 Corinthians 5, I don't regard anybody according to the flesh anymore.
Mhm.
Like we don't have people figured out from the outside. We used to think we
Right.
knew who Christ was, and we were wrong about him, until he revealed who he really was to us.
Yeah.
But, it's like, so we don't regard anybody by their outward. And yeah, we think people are like, we kind of do the math, like that person's really close. I mean, and sometimes people are asking questions about Christ and God, and you can tell they're probably close to making a
Yeah.
decision. But other times we cancel who we think would want to talk or be open, and we miss an opportunity.
Yeah.
You know, I think no, it's so encouraging to
There's an
hear your
amazing
guys'
guy.
stories.
There's an amazing guy named Ben who's now my intern. 2 years ago, he's covered in tattoos. His head is
Uh-huh.
covered in tattoos. He looks potentially really intimidating. You would
Yeah,
never think that he would have given his life to Christ. And 2 years later, he's given his life to Christ. He's in online school.
okay,
Uh,
yeah,
and he's a tattoo artist. Is very successful. Owns a tattoo shop. Has employees. Everything. And he wants to intern. And he loves Jesus. And he's praying for
yeah,
people. And his whole life's changed. But if you were to look at him according to the flesh,
uh-huh.
you'd be like, oh, this guy. No, no, I'm not even talking to this guy. But this guy said yes, and
Mhm.
it's amazing, amazing.
Yeah,
And now he's like serving in the church.
I love it. So you're about 2 years into it.
Yeah,
And when did you let the whole church kind of into the groups then? Because I know at first you guys started this, we started in a similar fashion. Like
yeah,
you just bring people through the leader school first, and then they get to be a part of the groups through that gateway to start with. But the idea is to like kind of explain our heart behind that, so it didn't sound
yeah,
like we were trying to exclude people
right, yeah,
on Sunday. But I just said, hey, it's a big ship. We've done things a long way here that have been really good, but we want to start these new things. So we just want to gradually get more and more people on board so that we can
yeah,
make this move kind of successfully together, for the long haul.
yeah. Yeah, so we about 8, 9 months ago, I would say, just over a year into it, we started allowing the church to see if there's any ones that they want to join and sign. up for. And then we advise the leaders that are already existing that, hey, like you need to implement and talk to these existing church members, the goal and the vision and the mission of this group.
Mhm.
And there's on the templetotable.com website, there's
Mhm.
it's under resources, it's videos that kind of share quickly. They're like 3 to 5 minutes. Hey, this is how we start a group. This is how we cast vision in the group. So everyone knows from the beginning, this is about inviting other people. So every table group we tell people, hey, we're meeting here. We love Jesus. We love to talk about Jesus. We love community. This is what this is about, and it's important that we pray about who to invite and try to invite someone every week. So if you have someone you could be praying for, maybe you're enjoying it, maybe you're visiting for the first time and you think this is amazing. We want to encourage you. Invite a friend, bring a friend. They're always welcomed here. So it's like that little thing sets the tone of the culture so that people know that oh, we need to invite, and our goal is to multiply.
Yeah.
So that's like something that's really important. But yeah, so
Yeah.
we opened it up a year after to the rest of the church, and now a lot of them are going through table group training. So we do 4 table group trainings a year, and they're either preparing to just launch their own table group or they're going to come back
Mhm.
in and support in a more leadership fashion.
That was great.
Yeah, it's really
Yeah.
interesting.
Yeah, I think for now our biggest hurdle just seems to be a lot of the people that went through the training are amazing leaders and amazing people that like most anybody would want to spend time with.
Yeah.
Um, and then like some of them might not have as many connections to non-Christians. They've been the first ones that said yes to training are like really hungry to be a part of soul winning, but maybe have been, saved. Not all of them are older people necessarily, but even the younger leaders that have come have probably at least have been pretty like, following the Lord for like 5 or 10 years, pretty wholeheartedly. And so they're just like, I don't know a lot of non-Christians right now. And
Yeah.
so I'm like, I almost feel like some of our next wave of leaders that aren't in the church as long, or even the guests that are coming, have the best chance to help grow the groups. And
Yeah.
so I love getting to mix those seasoned believers though with people that aren't
Yeah.
as rooted in the faith or newer or they're not saved yet, because it's so cool to see what happens when they come together to share life and how God meets us all kind of
Yeah.
in the midst of that.
Yeah. Yeah. It's beautiful. And everyone has a role to play in a table group. So, we always encourage everyone to invite, but, they might be a massive, amazing, mature believer, a mother or father to the faith, and they really help a visitor or help someone
Mhm.
who's just starting out with Jesus in the table group. And so you might be like, well, you're a part of their story. So it's like you remember when that person came there for the first time, you remember when they got saved, and you were a part of that whole journey because you spoke into their life, you prophesied over them, you prayed for them and they got healed. You encouraged them. You told them like, hey, you will be a good dad one day. Don't worry. Like, like all this, whatever it might have been. So a lot of people go, well, I'm not an evangelist. I'm like, well, first, we're all called to evangelize, but you might be more gifted in maturing a believer, but you're all called to evangelize. So we kind of get that. And we had someone say, well, I don't want to do table groups because, I just feel like I'm an evangelist for the church, to the church. And I was like, it's not in the Bible. That's not,
Yeah.
like you don't need to evangelize the church right now. You need, and unless the church has unbelievers in it, you need to evangelize
Yeah.
the lost. And but I've heard every excuse not to share the gospel, not to invite people. So we tell people, hey, get even people who are seasoned Christians and don't have many unbelievers in their life, just find something you love to do that's around people and do it.
Yeah.
You know?
Yeah.
And for me, it's jujitsu and going to the
Yeah.
gym. That's where I spend the limited free time I have, but also like,
Mhm.
going to my kids' basketball, baseball, my kids' soccer games
Yeah.
and talking to the soccer parents or the swimming lessons they go to or any of those opportunities you end up meeting the parents there and
Yeah.
talk, right? So
Absolutely.
yeah.
Yeah, it's great. I mean, we had to put a pause on our jujitsu membership like a week or so ago
uh,
because we can't, we're only training like
up.
a
Yeah.
couple times a month, maybe a few times at most. And it's like we're very stagnant, but I haven't been able to build relationships, and I hated having to put it on pause. I'm like, oh, I miss these guys.
Yep.
But the last year or two has been tough to train very consistently.
Yeah.
So anyway,
I get
hopefully I'll be back soon after some of our kids' school activities are a
Yeah.
little because they're homes in this intense homeschool thing for as high schoolers. Um, well, two of my kids are two of the four, but anyway, like yeah, I love getting to be in the community as a pastor and have friendships with people that aren't in the church.
Right.
I find it very refreshing to, just get to be one of the guys or just one of the neighbors or friends, and just talk about life. But it's an amazing opportunity to be a bridge for the gospel.
Yeah. It's so good. Yeah. And it's as a pastor, it's so exciting to see. I just want to say, like, one of the biggest joys
Mhm.
um, I found was um, watching people bring people to Jesus and watching how
Yeah.
excited they are. And like
Yeah.
I've seen it. Like, I've led people to Jesus this year, not through an altar call, but through table groups. But just watching, like my executive pastor would tell me, like, he's personally led four people to Jesus in his table group. Like
Mhm.
and then the other members and leaders of the table groups going like, I can't believe it. They're like saved now,
Yeah.
and it's just awesome. And it just rejuvenates them, and it rejuvenates the church. They see like all these
Yeah.
people getting saved, you know?
I, yeah, I think that a lot of times when people want more depth in their Christian life, like maybe they don't realize that maybe they want more impact or they want something more
Yeah,
meaningful. And we think of it as just like, when I get like more personal revelation
yeah,
of God's word at a deeper level, or I have these own like profound spiritual experiences. But there's something, when we were doing this like kind of vision casting last summer and like intentional preaching
uh-huh.
on these topics, that was one of the sermons was the joy of the catch, because
Yeah,
I saw this like viral video of a dad who like caught a small fish on a lake on a dock, and when he gets it in, he's like holding the fishing line and it's shaking everywhere, and he's like got that like a little like, I don't know, like
that noise.
maybe he has like a
Yeah,
camera on his hat, or he maybe
yeah,
has his phone out, but he's running to tell his wife. And it was like the most primal, like, we've been starving for a month, but today the family's going to eat because I finally caught a
yeah.
fish. And it was like the joy of the catch. And
So funny.
he's like literally like hooping and laughing and like,
That's
oh, I got a fish. I
yeah,
got a
yeah,
fish.
yeah, yeah,
I
yeah.
was like, you see that in Christians that are bringing their friends and family to church. And we have testimonies. I think we might, after like 3 weeks, we might have got our first visitor this Sunday from a table group into the church
Wow.
service.
Wow.
So we haven't had those
It's only been
testimonies
two
yet.
weeks.
Yeah. Well, not from my group, but the other group might have met 3 or 4 weeks. But yeah, they were a little before us. But anyway, yeah, only a few weeks. They told me he was coming. I just haven't got to follow up to find
Yeah,
out. Was he there on Sunday? You told me he was coming. So,
yeah,
um, but it's amazing to see the joy of people like having someone in their home and how well it went, or like
yeah,
somebody already like broke down in tears
yeah,
talking about the pain that they had been through, in a past church experience,
yeah,
and now they're wanting to come back to church,
yeah.
and it's only after a few weeks.
Yeah. It's so
Yeah,
good.
it's
And I
amazing.
tell people, I say, like, we're so busy. And, when you become an adult, you realize you're always going to be tired, right? Like, there's like this, it like comes with the territory, like, oh, I'm always going to be tired, So, there's going to be times where it's like, and this is just me personally, where I'm like, oh, it's table group tonight, man. I'm so tired. I would not mind it if it got canceled, Like, I've had those thoughts. I'm a human,
Yeah,
but we do it anyway. And every time I'm like, oh, thank God we did table group. It was so good. Like, just seeing the people's encouragement. So and so showed up. So and so got healed. So and so was crying. So and so asked questions. So and so shared a story for the first time. They've never talked before. Like,
yeah,
you're like, this is working. And so it's going to cost us something, and that's okay. Jesus said, well, my camera just went down.
you're all
Jesus
good.
Jesus said it's going to cost us something, but um, that's okay. It's worth it. It's worth it.
Yeah. Well, That's a good note to end on today,
Yeah,
man. It's worth it.
it's
It's
worth it.
hard work. Honestly, I know churches could always use more resources and giving to support some of the vision that we have, but I think the biggest thing people can give is their time to pray and invest in the lives of others personally like that. It's worth it.
Yeah, it's so worth it. It's
Yeah.
we're changing like generations of lives.
Yeah.
It's just it's so fun to see, so fun to see. And
Yeah.
yeah, church buildings need a bunch of money, and I get I'm a pastor, and
Uh-huh.
but what's you can edit this out if you want, but I just remember when God gave us the vision of Table Group, and someone had a meeting with me and just said, "Hey, I want to give you this $100,000 check, and there might be more, but I want to see what you're going to do with it."
Mm.
So, well, I don't need any money to do what I'm going to do. Like, I'm really grateful for this. I'm going to put it in savings, and we're going to advance the kingdom through homes.
Yeah.
And it's amazing. Like,
Yeah.
I'm not beholden to, I don't need to raise $3 million to get Albuquerque saved. I need to
Right.
raise 300 people
Yep.
to get Albuquerque saved.
That's right.
And that's what I'm trying to do. And so I love that we're not beholden to money, that it's not
Hmm.
a thing. Like I know it will be a necessity for the temple, but not tables. And
Yeah.
that's why during COVID in Bello, they grew.
Yes.
That
It's amazing.
there was a max meeting in homes of 10 people per home. And they were like, we can do that. And so they went from like at that time like 14,000 to 19,000 or something like that.
Yeah.
So it's just beautiful. So
Yep.
love
Any
it.
season of life,
Any
it's
season of
if we're
life.
just investing in people, we can grow and multiply. Yep.
Right. That's right.
Life to life, home to home.
So good. I love it.
Yeah. Thank you so much, man.
Thank you,
Appreciate all
John.
your
I love it.
expertise, your time. Thanks for running ahead and sharing so much wisdom and support along the way.
Yeah. Well, any spiritual wisdom, empowerment, insight you get that I
Mhm.
didn't get, let me know because we will
Okay,
take
yeah.
it and use it.
We need to, yeah, compare notes and keep
Yeah.
keep improving.
Yeah.
That's great.
Appreciate you, bro.
Appreciate you too.